the Baltimore Ravens and John Harbaugh, Penn State football and James Franklin. I had the privilege of attending both of their most recent home games, and if you listened to the media, you would have thought there were full-on fan revolts at M&T Bank Stadium and over in not-so-happy Valley these days, where fans were just chanting "fire the coach" and people were wearing paper bags over their heads, and it was just a hostile, untenable situation. While each situation may or may not be untenable, the media is making a mountain out of a molehill as it relates to fan backlash. Let's start with Penn State, because obviously we know James Franklin has now since been fired. And having attended that game, I would say the atmosphere was more of a malaise, just a general unhappiness. There were some "fire James Franklin" chants. These were, especially post-game, a little loud, but no more loud than, the "sell the team" chants you would get in Sacramento. In fact, I would argue those were cheered with more passion, more boisterous, if you will. The weird thing that gets me about all of this, Paul Finebaum has said on multiple times there were Penn State fans wearing bags over their heads. Let me tell you how that all went down. There were like two guys handing out bags. There may have been, I would say I could have counted the number of people I saw with bags over their heads at that Penn State game at Beaver Stadium. It wasn't this huge widespread thing. It was just two fans trying to start something and not particularly being successful in doing so. I mean, I sat right down from the paper bag guys and they were there, but it wasn't this huge ordeal that Paul Finebaum seems to think it was. And that really brings me to the crux of the argument here. It feels like these coaching issues are being painted almost in the same light as a false flag operation, where I don't know who's pushing it. I don't know what the narrative here is. I guess it's just controversy creates cash. Shout out Eric Bischoff, where the media just wants to create these huge, massive stories on things that I'm just not. I was there. They weren't happening as they have been portrayed. Take the "fire John Harbaugh" chants in Baltimore, for example. Calling these a smattering of chants feels almost somewhat generous. Like, there was a general unhappiness in that stadium on that day, especially with offensive play calling. Like, no one wanted to see Cooper Rush. I don't know why they didn't start Snoop Huntley, because that's who the fans wanted to see. But when you sort of got when you took the temperature check of the fan base, you check that pulse, it was, again, more of a malaise than an outward hostility towards John Harbaugh. From where I was sitting, I didn't hear any "fire John Harbaugh" chants. There were some boos after the play calling, and there was some really bad offensive play calling on that day. Make no mistake about that. But that's kind of the vibe from that game, was just a general unhappiness, like, what the hell are we doing here? Voicing displeasure at the offense in particular. And I mean, I would argue rightfully so, that Baltimore Ravens offense, even with Cooper Rush, not a good look. And I mean, I'm happy because the tickets were cheap, but what are you going to do there? Yet you'll see it. I've read it in several different places. I've watched it on TV where it was like, there's this revolt against Harbaugh. The Baltimore Ravens fans are turning on him. And some are, but I would argue mostly it was a fan base that, I mean, I'd almost say it was a fan base that's forgotten what it's like to lose. And I mean, they haven't really experienced a lot of losing over the years, at least in recent times since Jim Harbaugh has taken charge. There wasn't this huge, like, oh, we got to get rid of Jim Harbaugh sentiment. It was like, well, this isn't great, but I think most fans were kind of understandable of the situation. Now, they did not agree, again, with the play calling. They didn't agree with putting Cooper Rush in the game over Snoop Huntley, although I don't know if that makes a hell of a lot of a difference on that day. But again, it's just being painted as there's this huge backlash. The media is seemingly trying to manufacture drama and storylines. When you were at the game, though, that wasn't the sentiment. That wasn't what really happened. And it's and I don't even want to say it's a bummer. It's bullshit is what it is. For Paul Finebaum to say on multiple occasions that Penn State fans were wearing bags over their heads. I mean, that stadium seats more than 100,000 people. The percentage of fans wearing paper bags over their heads was like 0.01, if that. It wasn't this huge movement. And you see the reports of like fans in Baltimore chanting "fire Harbaugh," and it wasn't this huge thing. Like, it was more of a malaise. And that's, that's obviously a worrisome thing, no doubt. Like, you don't want your fans to just enter the stadium with a general malaise, a general unhappiness. It creates indifference, and indifference is the most dangerous thing you can have within a fan base. So make no mistake about that. There is some cause for concern, and front offices do need to think about changes, or in the case of Penn State University, they've already made that change to move on from James Franklin. You sort of need to understand when to make the change, what you need to do. Yet, I don't know if James Franklin had even stayed on, that there would have been this huge rebellion. I think the next Penn State home game, the anti-James Franklin sentiment may have built up a little more had things not gone their way. I think that would have been a realistic concern, but it wasn't this huge ordeal in the crowd. Again, like I said, unhappiness, yeah, no doubt. But to say that there was a massive fan backlash, I mean, the most memorable thing I saw in the Penn State game was this guy with this sign. I mean, yeah, dude, you're here. I don't know who you're trying to send this message to. I assume it's someone else in the stadium. I got a kick out of that, seeing that, because I was just like, what the hell's going on there? Ultimately, though, I just don't understand why the sports media, and let's be real, in particular, like ESPN, is now trying to concoct storylines. I mean, that's what they are. These are pro wrestling storylines out of nothing. These weren't the reality of the situation. The reality in Baltimore wasn't 80,000 fans screaming, "Fire Harbaugh." That didn't happen. There were some there. There was some booing. There was some just general not particularly thrilled fans with on how that team is unfolded. But again, we're talking about 1-5 after years upon years of winning. Maybe we want to settle down there. I'd argue the same thing with Penn State. Like, I get why Penn State wanted to did fire James Franklin, but who are they hiring that's better? Matt Rule? I mean, good luck with that. Ask Carolina about Matt Rule, and then people say, oh, pro college, whatever. So be it. It worries me that we're seeing the media in sports kind of fabricate things. The entire Penn State thing was a lot of fabrication. Same thing in Baltimore. And if you go to these games and you take the temperature check, it's basically what we're seeing in politics, right? Where people are just making crap up. And they're getting away with it because no one who was there is saying that's not what happened. And even those who were there can't fight alone the reality of the situation. So, I mean, we've seen the sportification of politics now forever and a day, and it's only getting worse. But that sort of feels like we're now seeing that the politicalization aspect of where you have politicians just making stuff up. And they're getting away with that because the people there aren't having their voices heard. So I'm going to come out and have my voice heard right here. It is bullshit for Paul Finebaum to talk about Penn State fans wearing bags over their heads, because there were a handful at most. If you want to say Penn State fans were appalled and wearing bags over their heads, I mean, you would have to be a grade A idiot. Oh, well, who am I talking about? It's Paul Finebaum, a grade A idiot, and just really a massive tool of a human being. And in Baltimore, you have some of the ESPN reporters out there saying it was, they're fire Harbaugh chants. I mean, a few at best. Let's just have meaningful discussions on the real situations at hand. Like, what did Baltimore do wrong? What is Harbaugh getting wrong? What needs to be fixed? Can he fix it? These are all legitimate discussions to have. But to say the fans want him gone, not so much. And it's a really sad state of affairs in the world of sports when we have so much real stuff to talk about. We have so many stories and storylines that can be discussed in the talking head sphere that now we just have a bunch of liars and connivers and actually real journalists. I mean, the people reporting on the Fire Harbaugh chants, I think it was like Dan Graziano and some others. Like, I respect those reporters as actual journalists, but it appears like they're just peddling in secondhand information. And this is not just a sports problem. This is an America problem where people just say something and do something, and it's exceptionally annoying, and that's why I am here talking about it, because I was at that Penn State game, and I was at that Baltimore Ravens game, and the narratives from those games to have gone nationwide are not what you have been told. Anyway, thank you for watching this video. I am Cheyenne Hollis. This is The Touchback. For more National Football League content, check out the playlists. Well, it's somewhere on your screen. And until next time, hashtag take it out to the 25.